think that's a lot of the work that psychedelics do, especially when you take them in the right format and you're done in a ceremonial setting or in a proper safe setting. I think that's a lot of what it does. It changes perspective and it helps you see things that you need to improve in your own life because no one is going to fix your life for you. You've got to take responsibility for it. Like, let's
Scottie
roll.
Schneider, man. What do you got going on down in South America?
Yeah, brother. Well, I've got a couple things going on. I'm building a Yahe and ayahuasca retreat center, and I'm working on actually rapidly growing a completely free medicine music school that in the last 4 months we've added like 7,000 people. It's taken off, man. So I'm doing my best to live life well, take care of my family, community, and help people around me.
That is awesome. I aspire to do much of the same thing, but from here in the United States. You're in Colombia, South America, right?
Yeah, man. Been here for the last decade. Found my way down here after getting out of the army, spending some time in the corporate chemical sales world, and then digital nomading and building my own companies. And yeah, I found myself here in Colombia, man. And I've never felt like I've ever been at home more in my life than I feel here.
That is awesome. So you mentioned when we first hooked up some psychedelic therapy, and
Yeah.
you'd mentioned already so far ayahuasca. And
Yep.
I've never done ayahuasca, but I'm a big, huge fan of psilocybin. And
Oh, nice. Me too.
so I'm curious, how close is psilocybin to ayahuasca? How similar are they?
Well, they're really, really different experiences. Both are really powerful. I've taken both quite a bit, but I work more with ayahuasca. Um, Psilocybin mushrooms, depending on how you use them, can be a bit more friendly and approachable in my experience. Yahe, ayahuasca. So Yahe is what we call ayahuasca here in Colombia. It can definitely be a little bit darker, a little bit harder, a little bit more life-changing, perhaps. Psilocybin tends to be a little bit happier. Ayahuasca tends to be a bit more like I'm getting my entire bell rung.
So yeah, that's so my experience with psilocybin was I started using recreationally,
Hmm.
and like you said, it was more of the happy go lucky kind of stuff, and that's kind of how I used it. Then I had my first ego death,
Mm,
and after that, like I'll do it on purpose now, but um
yeah. Was it like 4 grams, something like that?
seven.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think who are the two brothers? The name is escaping right now. The two brothers that are like famous in the mushroom world. You
Yes,
know who I'm
I
talking
know.
about, but I can't remember
Yeah,
their name.
that happens in podcasting all the time. Like it'll be right there on the tip of your tongue, and then you can't spit it out
Yeah.
because you're live.
Yeah. Well, no, well, I'll remember it in a minute. But one of the like the older brother, Terrence McKenna. There we go.
Yeah, there you go,
McKenna, the McKenna
McKenna.
brothers. I knew it. I think it was Terrence McKenna like took 7 grams one time and like found himself in a tree.
I think the most that I've done, I think it's 11 and a half grams. I think that's the most I've ever done.
Dude,
And yeah, yeah. Well, so I used to be a big old
that's
fat
off
guy.
to you, man.
I'm 280 right now, but I used to weigh 520 pounds. And so when I was doing that big of a dose, it was when I weighed a lot. And I think that's why I ended up taking that high of a dose was because it was like, okay, we've tried, 3, we've tried 5, we've tried
Hmm.
7. Now let's go bigger. And the reason why I did that is because I went on a journey, man. I had that ego death, and it was so eye opening for me. It was like the way I explain it to people is like when you're talking about religion, there's a difference between believing and knowing.
Yep.
And when I went there, when I went on that first ego death, it was it was like I was being shown the difference between believing and knowing. And it
Mm.
changed my entire world, the way I treat people, the way I think about things, the way I process things is a whole lot different. And I was wondering, like, what is that something similar to like ayahuasca that you go on that journey and it's more of not like recreational, but more of like a you take the medicine when you need to kind of
Yeah,
thing?
exactly. I don't know of anybody that has taken ayahuasca recreationally. It's usually not like the most fun experience in the world. But I mean, I think the two medicines could be used in very similar ways, right? And I think that a lot of people sort of are looking for this magic pill, something's going to fix me, but nothing does. So you gave an example, you're 500, X pounds, and then you reduced your weight. I'm guessing was that because of the mushrooms and the work you're doing with the psychedelics?
Kinda. So I felt like I was sitting around waiting to die, and I was
Mm.
getting sicker and sicker, and I was getting winded just going 20 feet to the bathroom.
Oh man.
And I I felt like I had just given up. And I never really thought about it until this moment on whether that I could attribute that to my psilocybin use. But prior to I had weight loss surgery as well.
Hmm.
And prior to my weight loss surgery, I wasn't really thinking about my health in a way that is healthy, I guess. I wasn't really thinking about my health in a way that like I've got to take care of myself so I can be here for my kids. I wasn't thinking like that. And then I had the weight loss surgery and it was like I don't want to die, you know. I want to be here for my family. And now that I think about it, I think the the change in my thought process might have attributed to uh, my weight loss and my weight loss goals. But I think I was on that trajectory anyway. I probably would have had the weight loss surgery anyway.
Hmm.
But the I think I was able to get the weight off so quickly and keep it off because of the way my relationship with food had changed. I now
Yeah.
look at food as fuel now instead
Hmm.
of a recreation. And I now that I do think about like it was probably had a lot to do with the psilocybin and
Yeah.
trying to make those healthy changes. It's when I started getting into podcasting and stuff and trying to understand my world instead of trying to change my world, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. Like that's kind of speaking my language. That's kind of why I asked about it, and to answer, I think what your original question was, psilocybin and ayahuasca can often act as perspective changers, or let's just say that you maybe wouldn't have done the weight loss surgery before, but now the psilocybin is giving you an additional perspective of how much you love your kids and how much you want to be around for them. So then it kind of like connects things for you. That's kind of what happens with ayahuasca as well. For example, I've had some really severe family of origin trauma. Like my dad was a West Pointer, his dad was a West Pointer, I was a West Pointer. So I was like kind of inculcated in this very strict army tradition. I was homeschooled, didn't get out much as a kid, very conservative Christian family. And so I was kicked out of my family about 15 years ago and haven't spoken to my mother in that same amount of time. Mostly because I'm not seeing the world in exactly the same way my dad does. Anyway, that was pretty traumatic, as you can imagine. And I remember really struggling with that and going into the medicine to ask, hey, how can I get over this? And instead of you like showing me something else that might be happier for me, it showed me how much trauma and suffering my dad was going through and showed me things from his perspective. So I could see that, like, oh, this is how he acts that way. And so it completely changed that perspective of things. So I think that's a lot of the work that psychedelics do, especially when you take them in the right format and you're done in a ceremonial setting or in a proper safe setting. I think that's a lot of what it does. It changes perspective and it helps you see things that you need to improve in your own life because no one is going to fix your life for you. You've got to take responsibility for it, like getting the surgery or eating better, changing the way you have a relationship with food. And I think that basically any substance you take is going to be more or less along those lines.
Yeah, yeah. It's with is ayahuasca. It's like a plant. It's not a fungus, right?
Yeah, it's actually two plants. It is a DMT containing leaf and is a jungle vine. So the jungle vine, called bejuco, has what's called a DMT or MAO inhibitor. So the MEO inhibitor prevents the breakdown of DMT in the body so that it can be absorbed when you eat it. So weirdly, out of all the thousands and thousands of jungle plants in there, a couple millennia ago, the taitas, the shamans, the medicine people said that the jungle taught them how to make ayahuasca. So they found these two plants out of the thousands out there. To combine them, you cook them for like 5 or 6 hours, and then you end up with this really very foul tasting brew that has the DMT and the particular enzyme the body needs to make sure the DMT can be used. Because otherwise, you could eat as many DMT containing leaves as you want, the body immediately breaks it down. So it's kind of a miracle and a real mystery as to how it got there in the first place.
It is. I often think about that all the time, like how we knew to put those two plants together, or
Yeah.
how we knew that this particular psilocybin mushroom would have better effects than this one, or like cannabis. I love
I,
cannabis, man. Like
I wonder, I
how did
wonder if like
somebody know to light it on
psilocybin,
fire?
I wonder if like psilocybin was a bit more of like trial and error. Like, well, that one made Bob die, and that one made Joe see God. So like, let's eat more of that one. But I
Right,
wonder how much trial
right.
and error that was.
I often think about that, like especially when I'm doing them. I think about that, like what made people like because I don't know, like have you eaten psilocybin shrooms before?
Yeah,
So
quite a few times.
they literally taste like they grew on shit. They
Yes.
literally
Well, they
taste like that.
do. Look at because they do.
Right, right. And they taste that way. And I'm like, man, this is awful. Like I wonder what made people put these in their mouths, like
Yeah.
and it's funny to me, but I keep doing it. But like
Yeah.
cannabis, I love cannabis. Are you into cannabis down there in Colombia?
There are people that grow it. A lot of my friends do. I've grown it myself. It's not my particular medicine.
Not your particular medicine. That's a great way to put that because it is medicine. And
Yeah.
I look at it and I treat it as medicine. I didn't used to. I
Mhm.
used to be recreational everyday smoker. And then I brought the ceremony back to it. I noticed that I
Nice.
was smoking too much cannabis. I was going through about 2 ounces a week, which is a lot. I mean, that's a lot. And I wasn't really enjoying it anymore. I was just
Mm.
doing it because out of habit and like I got to get high, whatever.
Yep.
And then it once I was like, man, I'm really kind of just smoking too much. I need to bring like the ceremony back to it. Cause when I was in high school or right after high school, it was like, get your friends together, get a big ass bong with, or a hookah and enjoy that time with your friends. And when I was
Mm.
alone, the way I would do it is I would prepare my space and, get the lighter and get the hookah and get the bowl or whatever I was doing, get something to drink and make my area a little bit more pleasing for the next couple hours. And I started thinking about that. And I was like, man, that was back when smoking pot was really cool. It was when I really enjoyed it. And I looked at it as like a medicine. And then something in
Yeah.
my brain just clicked. And I was like, wait a minute, it is medicine. And I
Yeah.
need to bring that back and treat it like medicine. And now I may go through about 2 ounces a month now. And it's, like I don't smoke all day, every day anymore. It's, when I'm feeling like I need to spark up, I'll just prepare my little area and I'll sit down and I'll enjoy myself for a couple hours. And then everything just kind of gets better after that. But,
Yeah, that's so cool, man. I'm glad that you were able to like see that. I've had kind of a similar struggle myself. There's a medicine that we use as basically tobacco. It's tobacco and then various, depending on the mix, ashes of Amazonian trees or plants. It's called rapé or hape. And so it's administered by, it's like a snuff, like if you can think of it like that, tobacco snuff, and it's administered by a little pipe that looks like this.
yeah,
It's just like an L-shaped pipe, and that's kind of how it goes up. Or you can do it yourself, and that's called a curipe, which is this. Now, the problem is that it's made out of jungle tobacco, which has 9 times the level of nicotine that normal tobacco does. So if you're
wow.
not like super, super de duper careful with it, you can develop yourself a habit where you exactly like you described, hey, I wasn't really enjoying it anymore. I wasn't doing it ceremonially. I wasn't being conscious about why I was using the plant. that's something that I've been struggling with recently. And one thing that I did was instead of using the Coripe, the self applicator, I just gave that to my wife and said, "Hey, next time I want rapé, I will just come to you." And that forces me to be accountable and also really kind of intentional about why I'm using it. But I think that it's great that like you just set that example for yourself, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I when I started telling other people about that, I noticed that they started doing it too, and
Mhm.
it just
That's leadership, bro.
right, right. When I started talking about the first person I'd mentioned it to was my brother-in-law, and I was like, "Look, man, like I felt like I was just sitting around just getting stoned all the time. I was burnt out.
Mm.
I was, like I was having to consume more and more to get that euphoric feeling." And then when I stopped to think about like bringing the ceremony back, like almost immediately it changed to make me feel better, and like I was able to um curb the appetite for like my addiction. I was able to, because I
Mhm.
am addicted to cannabis. I can't even pretend to lie about it anymore. A lot of people say that cannabis isn't addictive, and I'm here to tell you, it kind of is. So, but
Mm.
I when I took a step back and I was enjoying it more, and now I'm it's actually legal where I live now. I live in Missouri, and I'm going to start growing my own. And I wanted to get closer to the plant, and I know you
Hey,
understand that.
nice.
I,
Yes.
I I wanted to get closer to the plant, and I talked to my wife, and I was like, "Hey, it's going to be really expensive to start with, but like, this is the amount of money that we're going to be saving in the long run. It will pay for the entire operation will pay for itself within the first year or so." And she's like,
Or literally
"Say
go
no
up and
more."
smoke.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I'm spending like $400, $500 a month on it, and
Yeah.
to spend probably, I don't know, 1,200 to we'll say $2,000 for a nice round number. To spend $2,000 on a nice, really nice grow setup, I would
Oh yeah, for sure.
be saving that $400 to $500 a month because I'm growing it my own, and I won't have to. It's just that first initial investment in the tent and the stuff that goes with it. But um, I know that I can get closer to the plant,
Mhm.
grow it, and nurture it from seed to harvest, and that'll mean that much more to the ceremony, if that makes sense.
100, no, 100%. Like this, I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised that you would say something like that because it's something that is like that's amazing. Getting close to the plant and stewarding it, shepherding it, safeguarding it, like that's an amazing thing to do. That's more or less what I'm doing with ayahuasca. I'm growing my own ayahuasca. I've actually just purchased, well, 2 years ago I purchased and I'm now developing on about 35 acres of jungle. Like it's literally jungle on a mountain. And so I'm planting native crops and a lot of medicine and mother coca, tobacco, borrachero, yahe, wachuma, which are San Pedro cactuses. I'm just going crazy, man. Like green thumb over acres.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So is all that legal there?
Yes. So I am associated with and basically been adopted by a indigenous organization called the Crenute. So they're an organization of the Nutabe Indians, which are some of the original peoples of Colombia. And as part of that organization, my land is designated as a tribal reserve, which means that it's illegal to use here and or grow and use those in a tribal, indigenous, and spiritual context.
Hell yeah. I actually knew that. I looked it up before I asked because I was like,
Nice.
well, if it's not legal, I don't want to be asking about it. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I did look up some of the laws. I was very surprised by some of the laws that are they're quite a bit more not relaxed than the United States, but quite a bit more understanding than the United
That's a
States.
great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. It's definitely they definitely do have law like you can't cocaine, those sort of things are not legal and I wouldn't recommend them for anyone anyway. But marijuana is legal. You can grow your own plants, I think up to 20 plants, just personal. There's no issue there. And within the indigenous context, the psychedelic medicines have been used for thousands of years. And so that is considered their right to use. And as part of that group, I'm sort of under that protection. There's also a gray zone kind of in the law where there are a lot of retreat centers that aren't necessarily on tribal lands and they're still operating. And that's usually not a problem either. So, like, relax is a great way to put it.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So tell me about this medicine music school you got. I can't pronounce the first word. Can you pronounce that?
Coyote. Yeah. So in the spirit,
Coyote.
Coyote. Yeah. So I've got a teepee, like a Lakota style 6 meter teepee out in my backyard. And I've constructed my house basically as a center for music and art. And my intention and purpose was I want more people to sing, like, period. I think that we're all creative people. And whether you're singing or banging a drum or playing guitar or harmonica, I love the process of helping people realize their own creativity. And so I've been training myself for a couple of years now. And a buddy of mine came to me a couple of years ago. He's like, man, I really want to learn, but I don't have money for lessons and this and that. I was like, hey, man, I can help, no problem. So I just put together a giant list for him that had tutorials and song lyrics and all that stuff. And he liked it and he shared it with his friends and then he shared it with a couple other friends. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make this into a course and I'm not going to charge people for it because the purpose isn't to make money here. It's to help spread music and joy in the world. And also from a spiritual perspective, the songs that we sing and play are ceremonial songs and we believe that they're prayers and they have specific spirits attached with them. So it's kind of like I'm sharing the prayers of this region and I'm giving more visibility to the wonderful people that are working so hard to help heal people. And it took off, man. It took off like a rocket ship. Like I stopped sort of promoting it now, but in the last 4 months, we had 7,000 people enter. And so now I'm creating a new version for English speakers, which is also ready to be launched. And yeah, man, I'm super excited. It's just a wild ride.
Well, I mean, because if there's nothing else other than plants that make me feel better, it's music, And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
live my life like so. It's podcasts and music for me. I love
Mm,
podcasts and music, and if I'm not listening to music, I'm listening to podcasts. If I'm not listening to podcasts, I'm listening to music.
same.
And there's there's actually amazing healing benefits to music
Yes.
and vibrations and stuff like that. And do you find that your psychedelic use helped you kind of tune into that a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. It was like maybe 99% of it. So there's certain styles of songs that you like to listen to or that seem better when you're smoking, right?
Yeah.
It's that plus like 100 times with the psychedelic plants. And probably I'm guessing you have had those same experiences with mushrooms as well. The style of music that you listen to when you're taking mushrooms versus marijuana is different, right? It's the same thing with ayahuasca. It's the same thing with yopo, which is another DMT snuff medicine that we use here. So we believe that the medicine teaches us how to play, and that over time, the medicine has taught us and indigenous peoples and facilitators and musicians styles and ways of playing that the music likes better and that works very well with it. And so what we have here in Colombia is this really unique musical style where you have the Andes. The Andes comes into Colombia and splits into three separate mountain chains so that you've got sort of mountain influences and then the jungle also meets around that area. So you've got mountain and jungle, and both of these musical styles are just kind of exploding in the same place. And it's like super unique. You'll never hear music like you hear in Colombia. And so you can go to a Peruvian ayahuasca retreat or ceremony, and the music will sound totally different. But I will never, ever forget Colombian music. And it's super unique and wonderful. And I love it. And that's mostly what I play now.
I'm gonna have to check it out because like so
Yeah.
when I use psilocybin, one of my favorite genres of music to listen to is like Tuvan throat singing.
Like Mongolian?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
And didgeridoos. I love
Hmm.
didgeridoos, and I think the biggest reason why is because I can feel it, like the vibrations
Yeah.
in my soul. Like the
Mm.
didgeridoo touches my soul, and the Tuvan throat singing, like I can feel that vibration washing over me, and it's the most amazing feeling that I've ever like. It's like Well, you know, like when you're starting to feel the effects, how it kind of just washes over you, that's
Yep.
how the music feels to me. It just envelopes me in those
Hmm.
vibrations and goes through me. And it's incredible. It's an amazing feeling that like I can't really explain it to people that have never felt it. You know,
Yeah,
it's
you
that
basically have to take some
powerful.
psychedelics and find it out for yourself,
Exactly,
and then you'll
exactly.
know.
So we talked a little bit about like the religious uses of the medicine. Do you find that your psychedelic use has made you more spiritual?
Yeah, 100%. I grew up really strictly evangelical Christian, and then I became atheist when I was in college, when I was going through West Point, and then sort of kind of agnostic. And that was about until 5 years ago, where I was started taking Yahé seriously. And that really convinced me, man, that there for me, there's a creator out there. There's spirits, there's like an other world and other entities. And
The
I
difference
actually just did
between
a yeah,
the difference
go for it.
between believing and knowing.
Exactly, believing and knowing. And it's not that I know everything or what it is exactly, but I know things are there. So what
Right.
I found is a cosmovision that is more or less aligned with the indigenous traditions, which is I believe in a creator or the great spirit, and I believe in Pachamama and the spirits of the plants and animals and trees. So I'm a bit of a naturalist hippie. And for me, that's what resonates. And for most people in ayahuasca, really whatever you believe about the world is fine. Just more or less leave people to believe what they want. Don't go
Right.
around like, smacking people over the head with the Bible or anything. And I actually just did a course on this, as a matter of fact. We're going to launch it next week. We did a full course on ayahuasca, myself and a facilitator friend of mine. So we've gone down into the depths of what the plant is and what it means and what the different cosmovisions are and how ceremonies work. And that's yet another course that we're launching for free that'll be on the website as well. So I'll make sure you get that link so your listeners can see. Like our main goal here is just to get people educated and to provide options to people that are trying to heal because ayahuasca is not right for everybody. Neither is mushrooms or marijuana or meditation. At the end of the day, I'm really passionate about getting people options so where they can find what healing about modality best fits them and kind of agnostic as to what they use to get there.
Yeah, me too. I always try to give caution when I'm talking about psilocybin because I know how powerful it is, and I assume that
Yeah.
ayahuasca is just that much more powerful because DMT. And when I
DMT
tried,
that lasts for 7 hours.
wow, and see, that's another
Yeah.
thing. I've never done DMT. I've always wanted to, but I've never like it's not legal here, so it's difficult to
Hmm.
come by. And like when I explain to people like I got into consciousness quite a bit more after doing psilocybin. And like, I know that you felt this way, but when I am under the influence of psilocybin, I can feel the plants. If I
Yeah.
go outside, if I go outside and the wind blows, I can feel what the trees feel. And I can hear them not speaking to me, but talking to me, you know? I
Yeah.
can feel them. And then I came to understand that we are all connected. And I feel like maybe even the universe is alive and conscious. And
I think that's
that's
right.
where it all comes from. And I, I don't know how to explain it to people that have never felt it. And
Yeah.
like it blows my mind that these experiences are so similar across cultures, across people, across uh, religions.
Yeah.
It is so similar. It just blows my
It's
mind.
It's almost like religions are trying to capture a version of the truth that we understand personally when we take these psychedelics. And you're saying everything that resonates so strongly with me, and that really resonates with probably 99.9% of the people that take these psychedelic medicines. Things like we're all connected, things like nature is alive and the universe is alive. It's very almost impossible to ignore those fundamental, I'm going to call them facts, once you've experienced them. And the fact is that, basically everybody else has done that, feels the same. One thing that really strikes me about the plant of ayahuasca, and you probably might have felt something similar about mushrooms, I'm just completely overwhelmed with humility and gratitude that this plant exists. It's like, hold on, it's like this spirit, this plant exists for no other reason than for humans to take it and so that it can help us become better. Like, what sort of selfless love is that, and how does that exist, and why? And thank you.
Right, right. You like I've got goosebumps, man. It's like the difference between believing and knowing. I say that a lot because it's so freaking true that I don't know how to tell you that there is a creator. I just know there is one.
Yeah.
I felt it. I've been there and I've not met the creator. I've not seen the creator, but like this, all of this seems impossible without some kind of center consciousness, you know?
Yeah.
And I love every bit of that. And I feel like it made me more intellectually available. It gave me the tools that I needed to seek out information and knowledge on my own. Like I've gotten
Yes.
crazy into politics and geopolitics. Not
I've gone
so
the
much.
other way. Like, miss me with all that nonsense.
Well, it's because you understand it's nonsense, right? Like it is just nonsense. And the way I look at things, like when people are like the right and left here in America, like when people are so far one way, and I'm like, now hold on a
Yes,
minute, because there's like
exactly.
there's so much there that you're missing.
Yeah, it's like, if you ever heard of or listened to Scott Adams,
No,
he's the
I'm gonna
creator of
have to.
Dilbert. Yeah, he's the creator of Dilbert, and he wrote a book that changed my life called How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big. So he's funny, and well, he used to be on the left, and now he's sort of like an independent. He has really wonderful views, very clear views about making your own decisions and what's going on in the world. So he has a podcast, Coffee with Scott Adams. I'd highly recommend you check it out. Um, but yeah, like this is at a physiological level, psychedelics literally increase our openness. They make our brains more plastic. They are plasticity, increase brain plasticity.
There
Yeah,
you go.
something like that. You get the idea. Not plastic brains. That would be a bad quote. Um, but yeah, they make us more open. They make us more aware. They make us more questioning. And I think the world would be a much better place if a lot of people did that instead of being like, okay, this is my tribe, and whoever tells me that this is what the tribe thinks, that's what I'm thinking, which is
Right,
basically nothing more than giving up your personal autonomy and just lazy thinking.
right. Cool. Well, so like here in the United States, our president is Donald J. Trump, and like don't get me wrong, I do know what the left is saying. Like I do understand what the left is saying about him. And I do understand that he may not understand himself why he does what he does. And but the reason why I agree with so many different things probably isn't for the reason why he's doing them. I just agree with the end result that I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I I can take a step back from I can have my own viewpoints and understand that this person over here has their own viewpoints. And if we disagree, well, we just disagree.
Exactly.
I'm not going to spend my time and energy trying to explain to people why I feel the way I feel when it's so hard to articulate like the difference between believing and knowing on so many different on politics. Like it's so
Yeah.
difficult to explain that.
Or just the simple fact that most people have completely lost the ability to disagree and to reason and to talk with each other. So it's like I don't waste my time anymore because it doesn't matter what I think about a particular issue. If they think differently than me, they're not going to address my arguments or why they think that I'm wrong. They're just going to call the person that I'm supporting a bad man and me a bad person for supporting them. It's like
Right.
what laziness. And
Right.
so it's just like, look, man, please just don't bother me. I'm going to be in the middle of the jungle in Colombia, quietly building my farm and harvesting solar energy. Please leave me alone. And thanks so much.
So what was your experience in the army like? As we briefly touched on that at the beginning, but
Yeah.
I am I'm not surprised that you are where you are in Colombia after being in the army. Um, I know quite a few combat vets who have went to Peru, who have went to Colombia, Mexico to do ibogaine. I
Hmm.
know quite a few veterans who seek out that experience to help them in their journeys. What was the army like for you? And did you leave the army, or did you do your time and leave, or how did that work out?
Yeah, well, it'll make more sense when I'm in a tropical country in like 30 seconds. So I graduated West Point in 2009 and served as an Army officer. I was posted in Alaska, Fairbanks. And I was I was on my own on a training mission. I was training myself, out snowshoeing at -40 and got super lost. And by super lost, I mean I spent 8 hours out at -40 and nearly died. So I had severe hypothermia when I got picked up. I managed to find my way out to the one road in that area, got picked up and got immediately taken to the hospital because the majority of my right foot was covered in fourth and fifth degree frostbite, and my fingertips were third degree frostbitten. So I very nearly lost my fingertips and ended up losing about a toe and a half, which left me with some pretty severe mobility challenges. Almost lost half my foot. It would have been dramatically worse if I'd lost half my foot. So I got medically retired. It wasn't the way that I wanted to leave the army for sure, because I thought I was going to be a lifer. I thought that was the only thing that I'd ever trained to do. And so you can imagine I'm in Alaska, I'm missing a couple toes. I'm getting medically retired from the army, which is the only thing that I've ever trained to do. And this is around the time that my family and I have become estranged. So I'm without friends, without family, embarking on a new career and figuring out what the heck I'm going to do with my life. So the military is good at a lot of things, but it's not great at teaching tolerance with alcohol. So I was already kind of a semi-functional alcoholic. And then the job that I landed was as a corporate chemical salesman for the oil industry. And so they handed young, recently retired Lieutenant Schneider a corporate card and a company car and said, go get people drunk and get them to buy chemicals from you. I was like, can
Okay.
do. I was really good at it, man. Like the first year, I like tripled sales. Like I was good at getting people drunk and talking to them while doing so. But I ended up a wreck. I was not happy. And so the military, part of the reason why the transition is so difficult from the military is because when you're in the military, you know who you are. You have a identity and a purpose. I'm a soldier. I'm serving the country. I'm doing this. Like I'm wearing a uniform. I'm part of a team, etc. And in the civilian world, you don't necessarily have that. So I kind of adopted what I thought the civilian world was telling me to do, which is get a nice car and get a nice house, and get a nice girlfriend, and do this and do that, and get in debt, etc. I was like, well, I did that. It's not making me happy. Okay, well, what's next? Maybe becoming an entrepreneur. Maybe if I can run my own businesses and control my own time, that'll help. So I was very inspired by Tim Ferriss. So I packed everything in a backpack around 2015 and took off for Puerto Rico is where I initially kind of landed, and then I ended up in Medellin. So over the next 5 or 6 years, I started two companies. My first company, I coded in my basement, and within about 8 months, it was doing $50,000 a month, and I was like, and mostly in profit. I was like, I've made it finally. And what I didn't realize was that that wasn't doing it for me either. I was like, what the hell, man? Like, I've tried everything now. What do you mean a lot of money isn't going to make me happy? I was also just a personal wreck. And so this was my change and kind of transition into plant medicine, where a buddy of mine had said, hey, man, you should really try ayahuasca. And he persisted. And I felt the call and I did. And that changed my entire life. And I can say with a certainty, how hard it is to talk to people about belief versus knowledge. It's about equally as hard to explain what happiness feels like to people that haven't felt happy at all in their life.
Yes, yes, and maybe I'm having some actual like difficulties in my relationships right now, um, with I guess, well, you know how with your parents, it's like that energy isn't there to fight it anymore because you're not
Mhm.
going to change how they feel and their
Yeah.
perceptions, but you know what's going on. You
Yes.
know, oh, they were babies at one time. They just haven't grown up yet. You know, it's
Exactly.
it is like that with a lot of people that I come across I don't have the energy to explain to them why I am the way I am or why I believe the things I do. It's just much easier to allow them to, because I think they're going to be fine. I think they're all going to be fine living in their own like happy little worlds and
Yeah.
ignoring the overall health of the whole world because they're stuck in work mode or family mode and stuff like that. Like I think that our governments have done a great job indoctrinating us to forget what life is supposed to be.
I
And
absolutely agree.
I think that people get too caught up in that rat race, and I don't give a fuck about that rat race anymore. I
Yeah.
really don't care about it. I want if I had my options that I could just pick up and go, I would probably move to a place where me and my family could just get together and have our own little commune, I guess. I'm not
I went
like
down to Colombia, man. We got free land available right next to mine.
so like and I was that's where I was going with
Yeah,
that
that's
is
literally what I'm building.
you had mentioned like 35 acres. Do you live in like a village or near a village?
So there's about 7 kilometers away, there's a very small village, like 3 or 4 houses and a football field and a very small school. And the rest of the community is spread out over basically farming countrysides. And so right now I live about 35, 40 minutes out of the city center in Medellin. And this is my home where I've got a garden growing and a teepee. This is my home communal center. And right now what I'm building is the 35-acre compound, for lack of a better term. I don't want to like it to sound super preppy or preppers. But what I'm doing is I'm preparing for the worst in a way that makes life better, even if that doesn't happen. Meaning I'm harvesting energy from the sun. I'm doing things in a sustainable way. I'm filtering my own water and reclaiming the ecology. I'm planting trees and fruits and vegetables. And the idea is that I can gather my people, that we can each have our homes, that we can live off the land, that we can use the products of Mother Nature and be a positive force in our community. That's the worst case scenario. Well, the best case scenario. And the worst case scenario is that if the world goes to hell with AI, which I think it's probably going to in about 5 or 10 years, or at little, at the least, there's going to be some massive destabilization. Then it's like, okay, well, no worries. Well, we have everything we need here, so let's just take some ayahuasca and mushrooms and play some music and
There
wait.
you go. There you
It's
go.
like
And
that's what I'm doing, literally.
I totally get like you had said like not that I'm a prepper, but like I'm prepping. I totally understand that. I've kind of went into that mode myself. Me and my family were switching up some of the things that like we don't buy bread from the store anymore. We make
Mhm.
our own bread. It's
So
healthier.
cool.
There's only a couple ingredients. We have we've stopped using seed oils.
Hmm.
We now use animal fat to cook with and butter, like real butter. And we it's not that I'm prepping for the end of the world. I'm not even like prepping for like a World War III scenario. What I want to know is if it happens, I'm going to be okay because I'm
Exactly.
prepared. And
Yeah.
it's happier. It is so much more happier to do things for yourself. And like collecting firewood. Like you don't have to prepare for the winter there, but like we have to prepare for the
We
winter
use a lot of
here.
fire. We always have fires going in the
Yeah,
ceremonies. Yeah.
and it's not like it's not work to gather firewood. It's life.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and you're not you're not going out, oh, I have to go get firewood today. It's like, no, if I don't go get firewood, I ain't eating. And
Yeah.
I got to eat, and everybody else has got to eat. That's what I was wondering about the village thing because here in the United States we're such an individualistic country that
Yes.
we don't even in families we don't have that village anymore. We don't
Exactly.
teach our families to gather around and support each other.
That's
We
something Colombia still has. Yeah, that's something they still have. And it's I'm kind of taking it to a different level. I mean, I think that we're meant to live in community and not be separated by 45 minutes in a commute. And so everything that I'm building is sort of all together. And we'll probably have this is my Yorkie Terry tree. He's getting up from his nap. So yeah, we're living together. Like actually, interestingly enough, I have a indigenous family living with me. So they were displaced from their tribal land out in the coast. They were not wandering around, but they were exploring around this part of Colombia. And I was introduced to this mama, which is a spiritual elder, and his four children. And so they've been living with me for the last 6 months, and we're preparing the land in San Rafael, the 35 acres, so that they can be some of the first inhabitants. So it's like it's not just me and my family and on 35 acres. It's like a community of people that are all working together to live and live well.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned the AI thing. If that really does like destroy everything that we've built here, like people are going to want to live in a small community like that, and it's not going to
Well, it's
be
going to be
available.
necessary. It's like
Yeah,
I sort of think there are like three levels to this. The first is that it will be necessary because let's just say there is some sort of catastrophic event. You all basically all the simulations say you want to be about as close to hunter-gatherer tribes as possible. And the majority of those, where do they live? And today, in the Amazon,
yeah,
a lot of them, right? So I'm getting close to that. So that's a strategic choice. And then number two, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with AI, but there's going to be a lot of change. It's already a lot of jobs are disappearing with AI. And so I'm a programmer. Like I kind of see from the technological standpoint that they're not going to, it's already hard for people in Colombia to find jobs. The job market in the US isn't the best either. So I just don't think it's unlikely to get like super good and utopian. You know what I mean?
right.
So yeah, just I want to make sure my bases are covered.
The way I look at AI, I don't think AI will ever be sentient because of the whole consciousness aspect that we've talked about already.
Mhm.
I don't think AI will ever be sentient, but do I think that it's going to displace a lot of people? It's going to displace jobs. I do think that. I do
Yeah.
think that AI is going to become so prevalent that our economic, like the whole economic world that we've built, will no longer be sustainable. And we will have to figure out some kind of monetary system so that people like me don't have to be hunter gatherers if we're going to live in the United States. I don't think I don't think the United States is ready. I don't think like
No, nobody is.
we didn't build our infrastructure for it, like we
Yeah.
built our infrastructure for people and manufacturing. I think that's where AI is going to help the most is manufacturing. I think that's also going to be our downfall is because AI is going to take over manufacturing and we're going to have a lot of people without jobs. And
Mhm.
because we have a lot of people without jobs, we are going to we're going to have a lot of people that are living in cities like this that are hungry or they don't know how to gather specific like food. If you live like Chicago, if something was to happen to Chicago, and that's one of the world's biggest cities, if something was to happen there and they couldn't get food for 2 weeks into the city of Chicago, there'd be a lot of dead people.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think AI is going to exacerbate that,
Mhm.
but I don't think it'll ever
Mhm.
be consciousness. I don't think it'll ever be conscious because I think that I don't think it's possible. I don't think that unless AI comes so far, so much more farther than it is now, I just don't see the consciousness aspect of AI.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not really up at night thinking that there's going to be like
Yeah,
Skynet
me
taking over the
either.
world, you
Yeah,
know? But I do sometimes stay up at night understanding human nature and how thin the veil of civilization really is when it comes to things like you mentioned, the supply chain, and how short people's patience are, or how short their patience is if they, for instance, can't make ends meet or can't put food on the table. And so, what I'd like to do is just put my own food on my own table and be able to support my community and family and neighbors and let that be it. Because then I don't need to worry about, okay, the entire money system has collapsed. Well, no worries. Like who wants corn?
right, right, exactly. So, what language do they speak in Colombia?
Well, they're primarily Spanish speaking. That's the sort of the official language. And there are quite a few indigenous languages that are around. For example, the Wiwa elder and his family speak the Muna language. So that's what their language is called. And I'm actually, as a matter of fact, as another side project, because I'm not busy enough, I'm developing a language learning program for the indigenous languages. So I'm starting with Damuna. I also work with the Siona tribe in the bottom of Colombia, sort of top of Ecuador. I'm actually going to go visit my Taita next week, as a matter of fact. I'm going to drive like 17 or 18 hours down, go visit him in the blazing hot jungle and spend some time with him and his family. So one of the things that is happening with the languages here in Colombia, we're losing them. There are less and less people that are speaking their indigenous languages. And what I'm trying to do as a way of giving back to the indigenous communities, which have given so much to me, is try to safeguard and at least save that knowledge so that other people can speak it. And I'm hoping to speak to Muna myself because I've got like so there's a 4-year-old, a 8-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 13-year-old. They're living with me, and only the 13-year-old really speaks kind of passable Spanish. And so we did like a language exchange the other day. They taught me a little bit about their language, a couple basic phrases, and I bought them a language learning software, or it's like really an audio program that allows them to start speaking English. And so the little kids have been running around like saying like random English phrases, which is just like the cutest thing ever, man. It's so cool.
That's amazing. I like the longer this conversation goes on, the more impressed with you I get because
Oh,
it's like
thanks, man.
who thinks of this shit? Like you're like, oh, but this language is kind of going away, and I kind of want to help preserve this for future generations and kind of teach the younger generations how to continue this. That is so admirable because it's usually the other way around. Oh, these people are still speaking their indigenous languages. We got to teach them English,
Yeah.
and I'm very impressed with that.
I really appreciate you saying that, man. It's a side effect of taking a lot of psychedelic plant medicines. I just can't help it. Like my heart is wide open and I just love people. I love myself. I love my life. I want to help other people and I want other people around me to be happy. And I'm constantly looking for ways to make that happen. What's really kind of interesting is you start to look at things from a really different perspective. You start looking at the nature of words. So, for example, um, patience, paciencia. In Spanish, paz is peace, and ciencia obviously is science. So paciencia, the word itself means the science of peace. Like, huh, like that's really interesting and cool. And so when you get down to that level, you start looking at languages differently. So the cosmovision of these indigenous peoples are interwoven into the language. The way that they see and understand and interact with the world is how they speak. And so to really understand them, to really be able to communicate with them, you need to at least understand their language. And so once you know that, it's like, well, what a horrible shame that knowledge like that is going out of the world. And then you're like, well, can I do anything about it? Well, yeah, why not? Let's do it.
It's very interesting that you put it like that because I was thinking more like Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber and how I don't know.
That took a
I
wild
don't.
turn.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I think the reason why he was the way he was because of psychedelic use.
Mm,
For him, it was I think it was oh shoot, acid. What did they call that? LSD. For him,
mhm.
it was LSD, and essentially his manifesto. I mean, it does read like a crazy person, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about society's issues, how we have progressed to a point where we no longer care about each other. It's all
Mm.
about me, 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 me. And electronics and internet and all of that stuff is kind of it's ruining our skills.
I
Um,
agree. It's disconnecting us from the idea of being human. I mean, I definitely see where you're going there, and this is kind of like the difference. With every problem in life, you can choose to do something about it, or you can whine about it and try to blow stuff up, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's like, what's the healthier, more conscious approach there? It's to like do something about it. And I think what's also interesting is like this an annoying human tendency to focus on external sources instead of focusing on ourselves. Like you mentioned earlier that you led yourself by reestablishing your relationship with the medicine, something that you did for you, and then that example inspired others to better their lives. That's a great example. And so I'm working on my life as much as possible. And what I kind of say is like in the medicine, when you're taking these psychedelic plant medicines, you usually work on yourself for a time. And there's typically an inflection point where you decide, okay, I'm kind of done working on myself, not all the way, but now I want to start to help others. Otherwise, you're kind of a dick, and that just happened to me.
I
And
think
I
I'm in
think
that
that,
spot right now. I'm starting to be a
yeah.
dick to everybody because of the way I'm like, I don't want to really talk to you because I don't think you'll understand.
Yeah, I would encourage you to fight that. Now, it's not like, do you have to sit down everybody that you meet and like have a 3 hour conversation with them? No, like as individuals, as people, as healers, we have to make sure that our own cups are full, that you're taking care of yourself and your priorities first, and then family priorities, those sort of things. So I'm not saying that you need to be open all the time to everybody. There have to be limits. Um, but it is challenging to not get sucked into that kind of like pessimistic, like, they're not going to understand unless you take, and then you kind of, we want to be as open as possible, I guess is what I'm saying, and you are just such an engaging guy with so much to offer that I think it would be a shame if you talked to fewer people.
I, thank you very much, man. I've actually heard that a few times from other people, and I think I think for me it's not necessarily well, you had mentioned like worrying about yourself first. I always use like the airplane analogy. When you fly in an airplane, they tell you when that mask comes down out of the ceiling that, don't help your neighbor first. You put
Mhm.
on your mask and then you can help your neighbor because you can't help your neighbor if you're dead,
Yeah.
And so I kind of use that analogy. I've got to take care of number one first, which is
Yep.
myself. And after I'm fulfilled, then I can start branching out to my kids and my wife. And
Mhm.
once they're taking care of, I can start working on, like my other family members, like my brother and my sisters, and then from it goes on and on and on. But you cannot do any of that unless you are focused on yourself first, unless you concentrate on fulfilling yourself, making yourself happy, making sure you're okay, making sure you're not, suffocating, And once you do that, it does make it easier to branch out and help other people because you have that capacity.
Mhm.
And like you're saying, like I've heard multiple times from people like when I talk about, man, I should give up the podcast. It's not really moving or not really doing what I wanted. What are you talking about? It's doing great, I've several people have been like, you don't you just you're getting to the good parts, and what you would hate to see is giving up right before that inflection point, right before you take off. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I'm not really doing this for money. I'm not really doing this
Exactly.
for fame. I'm doing
Yeah.
this to share, and I want to talk to people. And then once I remember the why, it makes it all worth it. Like before I got on here this morning, I had kind of a crisis this morning and I was taking care of that. And for a brief moment, I had this what I call stinking thinking. And I had this moment where I like, wow, fuck that podcast. I don't even want to do it right now. You know,
Yeah.
um, I did have that for a brief moment, but then I was like, remember your why. Why are you doing this? You know, and then the stress, right as I was coming in here, my stress just melted away. And that is my why.
I love that, man. And you're doing it because it means something to you and it needs to be done. And you would do it regardless. I feel the same way about the guitar course. It doesn't matter if any opportunity ever comes my way with that or not. I'm doing it because it needs to be done and it's something that I want to do and I love doing it. So why not? In the process, I'm helping the local musicians, and my home has become a literal center and hub for musicians. It's like, great. It's amazing. So like I applaud that, man. I think that's really wonderful. And also that you have the self-awareness to, okay, well, like let's focus on the why instead of just saying, whatever, I'll cancel it. And then we wouldn't have had this wonderful conversation.
Right, right. And it's, I find it easier to, I do find it easier to like you call it self-awareness. I call it like admitting, the truth here. Like the truth is I do want to get in there and do the podcast, but right now I'm
Mhm.
frustrated. And it's coming to terms with that and breaking that cycle of I'm mad and I shouldn't continue because I'm mad or I'm upset. Well, let's figure out why you're upset and let's take care of that issue and then move on to other things. And I think it's this conversation has gone like amazing. I was like, I had told you
Oh, thanks,
before,
man.
like I was really excited about this when you reached out to me. I was like, yes, I want to talk to you. And
I really
it's
appreciate that.
I really appreciate you reaching out because like it's you combined like all of my favorite things in this one conversation. Like
Oh yeah.
so it's the plant medicine, it's the community and village and all of that. It's the music. I am really passionate about music. I can't play music, but I love listening to music.
Well,
And
have you heard that there's this weird gringo guy that like has a free learn how to play medicine music and guitar course
I've heard
that
that.
exists?
I've heard that. Yeah, I'm actually looking at your website right now. It said, and
Yeah,
that's
man.
one of the things that says completely free school. Learn to play and
Yeah.
sing medicine music. And I'm very impressed with everything you got going on, man. It's like,
Oh, thanks, man.
and do you find yourself like, do you find yourself getting energy from the things that you're
Yes,
doing?
100%. People have no idea of how I do the things that I do with the amount that I put into this. But it's like the nuclear fission reaction. It just keeps going, and the more I put into it, the more energy I get, the more efficient I get. It's like maybe you've had this experience in psychedelics sometime, but you ever get like you're just so full of joy and energy that you just have to sing and just like, ah, that's how I feel like basically all the time.
That is amazing. I wish I could feel like that all the time, but I do. I feel like that right now. Just the conversation that we're having together. It's been amazing. That's for me. That's what I do this for. It is the connection, and that like it's been genuine. Like talking to you, I haven't felt like you're not trying to sell me anything. You're trying to give me
No.
something for free. Just like
Yeah.
natural, good conversation. And it's amazing, brother. I appreciate it very much.
It's my real honor, man. Thanks for the work that you're doing, and thanks for showing up. And for I know it's a lot of work, man. I know it's a lot of work. So thank you so much for doing it. It was a real incredible honor. And if I can do anything to help out in the future, please let me know, brother. And please come
Absolutely.
visit.
I would love that. Right now I'm broke, but and I've got a family here. There's four of us in the house together. Of course, there's me and my wife, and then we have a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old at home. And I've got two older kids outside of the home. But when we're making less than 100 grand a year, and we're in the middle of the country, for us to get to you, it would be expensive as hell. I
Yeah,
might
I imagine.
be able to like make the trip in a year or two by myself, and that would be really really neat. And then we could do a ceremony together and have
It would
fun.
be
And
wonderful, brother. Yeah, that would be really
but
wonderful. And
one
I'm
thing
gonna
I'd
have my
like to
ceremonial center done in about 3 months.
really that
Yeah, we're
man, we're gonna have to connect after that because that's actually where I was getting going next. Is I'd love to have another conversation with you. Um, if if there's anybody I could peg down as a regular guest on the show, you would be that picture
oh, thanks,
perfect
man.
person
I'm
because it's
I'm
like,
honored.
hey man, you deserve it. It's not anything that um it's just that connection that we've had and the understanding that we both have about the medicine and how wonderful it is, and it doesn't have to be a negative. um and the positivity that's come out of this conversation, I feel
Mm.
amazing. And I'm ready
That's
to go out and play some
we've done
music. And
something
I don't
good, man.
see it's worth it. It's so worth it. This like I say this all the time. I invite most of my guests back on, but this one I really really mean it, man. I'd really like you to come back, especially like in another 3 months when you're
Sure.
when your stuff's all set up, if you could snap a few pictures of it,
100%, dude.
and then when we come back, we'll do it again. We'll share it with the entire world.
I would really love that, man. It would be an incredible blessing.
Awesome. Scottie Schneider, it's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And you take care of yourself until next time, man.
Likewise, brother.
We'll see ya.
Ciao.
Bye.